Hey guys, welcome. This is a review for test number 2, our second study guide, focusing more on circle and parabola equations. So here we go. The equation of a circle with a vertex at 0, 0 and a radius r. Okay, so the circle equation is basically x minus h. Maybe we should do that first. Let's do that first. You should probably have this written down. So a circle equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And the h and k are the vertex, so the x value of the vertex, which is 0, and the k value of the vertex, which is the y part, is 0. And so what this would basically just be is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. And I don't have to put in 0. I could have done that. I could have done x minus 0 parentheses squared, but this is just so much faster. Alright, the rest of these are just equations, so let's write those in. Okay, going up, so that's going to be an x squared, so x minus h squared equals 4p y minus k. Notice the 4p is positive, x is being squared. Versus down at the bottom, we're going to still do x squared, but this time it's a negative 4p. So if it's up or down, you're always going to square the x. Up, positive 4p, down, negative 4p. Right, this is going to be a y. Notice it's y always stays with k. If it's going to the right, right is where the positive numbers are, so that's a positive 4p. And then same thing, but now a negative 4p to go to the left. Okay, these should all be right in front of you when you're taking the test. No need to not have those in front of you. Okay, the equation of a circle with center at negative 2, 4, radius 4. Okay, so well, we're going to use the same equation we had from before, this circle equation, but we're still going to plug these in. And it's going to be the opposite way you see. So it looks like a negative 2, but when we plug it in, because there's a negative built in, it's actually going to look like a positive 2. And this will look like a negative 4. And then instead of 4, I'm going to do 4 squared, which is 16. Equation of a parabola. Okay, so I don't know if it's going up, down, left, or right, so we have 4 different equations. So 4 different ways this could happen. So I need to graph these real quick and figure out which way is it going. So I got vertex at 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's my vertex, and the focus is at 3, negative 2. So that means this thing must be going up. So I want to go up. So I'm going to use this equation up at the top. My h and k is 3, negative 4, so I'm going to go x minus 3 squared equals, we'll plug in that 4p in a second, y plus 4. Okay, now p is the distance between the vertex and the focus, so this right here is the distance p, which happens to be 2. So I'm just going to do 2 times 4. It's going up, so we're going to keep it positive, so that's 8. Alright, next one. So same thing. Now, graphing again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the vertex. The focus is at 5, 4. So it's now going to the right. So this is going to be a y squared. So it's just like number 3. And we're going to do y. It's going to be actually a plus 4 squared equals, still going positive, and this is x minus 3. It's still a distance of 2 here, so we're going to do 2 times 4 to give me 8. Okay, find the center and radius of the following circles. Okay, so center is really easy. We just pull out the opposite of what we see. So there's my center. And then the radius, we have to square root it. Okay, so 12, we're going to square root you, and that's going to be the square root of 12, which is 2 rad 3. Or you could even go with like 3.5 or something. So one of those 2 answers is fine. This one right here, the center, you just kind of have to count to it. 4, 5, 6, 7 on the x, negative 2 on the y. So there's your center. And the radius is 2 units. Nice. Okay. We have a center and a point on a circle. Okay, to do this, let's just draw a little graph real quick. Okay, so we're at 2, negative 3. There's my center. And there's a point on the circle at 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's a point on the circle. Alright, so the circle equation, we can actually write the first part easy. X minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared. So there's my HK. I just plug it straight in. Now the radius is the hard part, but this right here is the distance of the radius. So how do I find the distance of a radius? Use distance formula, which is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And so these 2 points, I'm going to call this x1, y1, x2, y2. We can plug it in. So we get 3 minus 2 squared plus 4 minus a negative 3 squared. So this is 1 squared plus 2 negatives make a positive, 7 squared, so we're going to get the square root of 50 is the distance. But in the formula, remember, it's r squared, so this is actually just going to be 50, because when you square a square root, you get just that number. There you go. Alright, complete the square on this, so it's just b divided by 2 squared. So it's going to be negative 10 divided by 2 squared, which is going to be negative 5 squared, which is positive 25. Alright, 1 down. 2 to go. Alright, not bad. I think that was the was that the longest page? I don't know if that was the longest page. I think this one might be. Okay. Alright, so complete the square to find the center and radius. Alright, then graph. Alright, so first of all, let's get everything situated here. I like to leave a space. Let me get y squared plus 4y, leave a space, and then I'm going to move the 11 to the other side, so I subtracted it. So let's complete the square. B divided by 2. So negative 8 divided by 2 squared. That's going to be negative 4 squared, which is going to give me 16. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. 4 divided by 2 squared, that's going to be 2 squared, which is going to become 4. So I'm going to add 4. Okay, there we go. So, what does this factor? What numbers multiply to 16 but add to a negative 8? That would be negative 4. Always has to be the same number because these are perfect square trinomials. What two numbers multiply to 4 and add to 4? That's 2. And then add those up. That's 20 minus 11, that's 9. So there it is. There's the equation. And then the center is the opposite of what you see. So it's 4 comma negative 2. And the radius is that square rooted, which is 3. Sorry, my paper was a little skewed, so I'm just going to leave it there for a second so you can pause if you need to write it down. But doing 2 complete the squares, make sure you add to both sides, and then factor. Write the standard equation of a circle given the center and the radius. So this is really easy. You do x minus 0 squared plus y plus 9 squared equals r squared is so r squared is what we want to put in here. So 9 squared is 81. And here we have the same thing, the point on the circle and the center. So we can plug the center in really fast. X plus, sorry, not x plus 3. It's the opposite of what you see. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals, I don't know the distance, but we can find it using the distance formula. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to use the distance formula. X2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, so we're going to do negative 2 minus 3 plus 0 minus negative 2. Okay, so that's going to be negative 5 squared, which is 25. That's going to be 2 squared, which is 4. So we're going to get the square root of 29. Remember, we square it, so it's going to end up being just positive 29. There you go. Again, this is positive, or not positive. It's a whole number 29 because the radius, this is the distance, which is called the radius, the distance from the center to the circle, is rad 29. So we want r squared, which is going to be 29 because we square it. That's a little r. Okay. Find the focus, the directrix, the vertex, and the endpoints. All right. Vertex, easy. Remember, this is the h, that's the k, so that's the first part, opposite of what you see. So it's negative 3 comma 5, so we're going to go negative 1, 2, 3, and then positive 5. So right there, that's my vertex. Okay, now it's opening to the right. Okay, so it opens right, and I know that because y is being squared and the 4p is positive. So what is the p-value? Sorry. The p-value, 4p is equal to 8, because 8 is in the 4p's location. Divided by 4, p is equal to 2. So I'm going to go right 2 for the focus. And there's my focus. And that's at -1, 5. The directrix is the exact opposite way. So it's back 2, and it's a line. And I'm actually going to use a highlighter so it's a lot easier to see. So that's the directrix. It's a line. And it is hitting at -5 on the x, so it's just that x equals -5. So directrix is always going to be either an x equals or y equals. It hits the x, so it's an x equals. If it hits the y, then it's a y equals. Endpoints. This is probably the hardest part here. The endpoints is what we like to call this distance right here that goes through the focus. So if we're here, we actually have to go 8 units total with the focus being in the middle. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 units, and I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So that's called the lattice rectum, and I know it's a funny name. This essentially tells me how wide my parabola is going to be. That's why it's the endpoint. So this is 8 units in length. The focus has to be right in the middle. So that's why I divided by 2. I went 4 up and 4 down. So that's going to be at -1, 9. And -1, 1. Right. 2 more. Here we go. All right. So before we begin, I'm going to tell you right now, just looking at this is going to go down. How do I know that? X is being squared and the 4p is negative. So what's the vertex? Well, we have 3, I don't see anything with the y, so it's 0. So there's my vertex right there. 3, 0. Boom. Focus. Okay. Distance p. So 16 is equal to 4p, which means p equals 4. So we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 units. There's my focus. Okay, so that focus is at 3, -4. The directrix is for the opposite. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a line that's going through this one. And we had x equals last time. This time it's a y equals because it's hitting the y at 4. Alright, and then last but not least, we said this number, 16, is how long the lattice rectum is. If I go half of that, I'm going to go 8 in one direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which puts me all the way over at 11. I'm going to go 8 in the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which puts me all the way over here at -5. So that tells me how wide this is. So it's a pretty wide graph. And that's going to be at, what? 11, -4, and it's at -5, -4. Alright. Write the equation of parabola with a vertex and a focus. So these are actually even easier to do. So we just go 3, -2. There's my vertex, and the focus is at 3, 1. Okay, so because the focus is above, we know this is going to go up. So I'm going to use the formula x minus h squared equals positive 4p y minus k. Just got to plug everything in. So hk is going to be 3, -2, so it's going to look opposite. That's going to look positive. And then here, p we said is the distance, so it's 1, 2, 3 units away. So we're going to plug in 3, so 4 times 3 is 12. It's going up, so it's going to stay positive. So we are done, and just like that, we have finished the video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.